I want to try and get into pre-season with Blues as quickly as possible. So I'm going to start off here by looking at the players that are currently on our books, players that are out of transfer and whether I think we should keep them or will keep them, and just generally players that I think might be sold, things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how our squad actually looks come the first game of the League One season. I think it will be very different. I can see at least 7, 8 new faces in that starting 11. So interesting to see what's going to happen. Make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get into the goalkeepers. And this one is pretty straightforward. Neil Etheridge and John Ruddy, both out of contract. Are either of them going to be renewed? Well, I can see Neil Etheridge moving on to somewhere. I'm not sure who might take him, but I think he will be gone. He's been out of favour for a very long time. John Ruddy, I'd like us to keep him on. I'm not sure whether we will, but I think as an experienced number 2, he would be great. He could be a number 1 in League One next season, but I'd like to think that we're going to do a great rebuild with quite a young squad. So maybe Ruddy as number 2, maybe as number 1, but I would definitely keep him on the books. So that's it for the goalkeepers. Let's get on to the defenders. And in defence, not counting Bielik, I'll put him in the midfielders. We've only actually got 2 senior centre-backs, being Dion Sanderson and Mark Roberts. Now, Mark Roberts, it does look like he's out of the club. He's going to head off. His contract is up, but we did have a 1-year extension. I don't think we are going to apply that. There was a post on social media, and I just think that his time is maybe up. He's going to move elsewhere. So, Mark Roberts looks to be going out. Dion Sanderson is an interesting one because until Bielik went next to him last season, he looked a shadow of the previous season. Will we keep him? You know, he's not out of contract. I think if we can, we'll keep hold of him. I'm not sure any clubs in the league above, in the Championship, will be looking at him. So, really, I think Sanderson is one that we will manage to keep hold of. And I think that would be a smart decision, especially with not having many centre-backs on the books. So, they're the centre-backs. At left-back, you've got Longello and Buchanan. Now, starting off, Longello, I think he stays. I really do. Longello at League One level, I think he'll be able to cope defensively, and he's great going forward. I'm quite surprised that there are occasions this season that he didn't come off the bench to give us some attacking threat, because he is very good on the wing, I've always thought. So Longello, I think he'll stay, and I'd quite like him to stay. Lee Buchanan, I think he was one of our better players this season. I wouldn't be surprised if there were Championship clubs in for him. So I don't think he'll stay in League One. I'd love to keep hold of him, but I do think that Lee Buchanan will be off. And that's left backs. Moving on to right backs, there's only one senior. Yes, we've got Williams, Oakley, but senior right back, Ethan Laird. Again, I'd like to keep hold of him. I think he'll be brilliant in League One, but I do think there will be some sides in the Championship sniffing around him, same as Lee Buchanan. I think Laird's got a lot of stick this season just because he throws his arms up and tries to get the crowd going. I think it's harsh. I think he's performed well this season. So Ethan Laird, again, I'd like to see him stay. I think he'd have a brilliant season in League One, but I do think, as the same as Buchanan, I think they will both be going, which means for the left back, right back and centre back positions, we will be very, very short, meaning a rebuild in defence will be happening. That's it for the defenders. On to the midfielders now. And in the midfield, Sunjic, Keshi Anderson and Gary Gardner are all out of contract. Sunjic, I'd like to keep him on the books if he'd take a wage cut, because you can tell he cares. I think in League One he would smash it for us. He's been playing very well for us recently, but I don't think we are going to renew his contract. I think he'd like to stay, but I've just got a feeling that chapter is going to be closed. He's been here for a long time, hasn't really lived up to the potential, even though he has got a lot of unnecessary hate at times. But I think Sunjic will be going. Keshi Anderson, I think in League One he'd thrive. I think he will stay. He is one of the players I'm more confident about staying. And yeah, I'd be pretty happy with him staying, whether it be starting or a squad player. One thing about him starting, he is a little bit inconsistent, but the output isn't there. You know, he's not going to go and get you 10 goal involvements in a season, it doesn't feel, unless he can do that in League One. But he does draw players in, he wins free kicks, he's one of those good dribblers, commits players, and quite good at crossing. So I'd keep Keshi Anderson. The other one, Gary Gardner. Now, it seems like he might stay just because of Craig Gardner being in around the club, but I don't know. I think maybe he'll stay. I'm not too fussed whether he does, really, because I don't think we should be basing a team around Gary Gardner at this point, to be honest. I'm not fussed. I think he will stay, though. Then looking at others, so we'll mention Bielik as he is a defensive mid but can play in defence. I'd love him to stay. I don't think he will. The whole reason he left Derby when they were in League One is because he wouldn't play for Poland if he was in League One. So he made the move. Whether he does that again, I'm not sure. It just depends, I guess, whether he's committed to the cause. Or if he thinks we'll bounce back up, he might stay for the season, which would be amazing. As since he's been next to Sanderson, he has probably been our best player. So good, very consistent, drives out, he's a very progressive centre-back, great on the ball. I'd love to keep him. I can see him making a switch to a Championship club, though, because I think he'll be one of the more popular ones with Championship teams. A lot of them, I think, will be in for him. So Bielik, I think, will be off, but I'd love to keep him. So Sunjic, Bielik and Gardner, the defensive midfielders we covered. Jordan James and Bakuna, I think these are simple. Neither of them out of contract. Both have a year left, but both of them, I mean, Jordan James, teams were after him in January. Atalanta, one of the main ones. I'm hearing now Dortmund could be after him. I think Jordan James will be gone. I'm not sure what the price will be. I think because we were in League One, it'll be somewhere between 5 and 10 million now. But if we can add a big sell-on clause in there, maybe a 20% or something like that, then brilliant. You know, it could be one for the future to really see the payment coming in. Now, Bakuna, again, I think he'll be off. It's got Turkey written all over it, I think, for me. I think he'll go to Fenerbahce, something like that, and he'll do very well there. But unfortunately, I think he will be going. And he's another that a lot of people say very inconsistent, and I agree. The back end of this season, he has put in some pretty poor performances, but I do think he tries. I just think some games he doesn't manage to have an effect on. I don't think it's because he doesn't try. So Bakuna, I'd love to keep him. He's been one of my favourite players, to be fair, since he's been at Blues. I think he's put in some very good performances a lot of the time, but I don't think he'll be plying his trade in League One. And there was a message from him on social media. He's actually been the only player himself to come out, but he didn't say, you know, we will be back. He said he thinks the club will be back, which just makes me think he's not part of it. He will be off. So moving into more attacking positions now. George Hall, I do think will stay. I think if we keep him fit, he will be a brilliant player in League One. I've got no doubts he will stay. Pritchard, I think he hasn't really shown much for us. Whether he's still got it in him for the Championship, I'm not sure. If Mowbray returns, I think Pritchard stays. If he doesn't, I think he will go to maybe a low Championship club. Maybe someone who's just been promoted to the Championship would fit. And then Paik Sung Ho, is a player that, again, I'd love to keep. I think he's got quality. I don't think he'll stay, however. I think there will be a few Championship clubs, a Sunderland probably, looking at a player like Paik Sung-ho who will fit in brilliantly. So I'd love to keep him. I don't think he'll stay. That's it for the midfield. Onto the attackers next. And our only senior wingers are Miyoshi and Dembele. I think one of the players I would like to keep the most is Miyoshi. I think he can frustrate at times. He can be a bit wasteful in front of goal, but creativity, great. He always gives 100%, and his output this season, he's had the second most goal involvements for us this season behind Jay Stansfield. So he is the top player for goal involvements out of all the senior squad. In his first season in English football, yes, maybe he lacked on the physical side at times, but Miyoshi is a player we really should be trying to keep. Again, Japan. Is he going to be playing for Japan if he's in League One? No. Do I think he'll be featuring if he's in the Championship, however? I don't think so. So I think Miyoshi is a player we could keep hold of, and I would love that because I think he would destroy League One. Siriki Dembele, on the other hand, I don't think we'll see him again. I think, he was brilliant at the start under Eustace. Since Eustace left, he dropped off, and I don't see a way that he plays for us again. I think he'll be back in the Championship. I think he's a player who really needs his hand held at a lot of times just to really, he needs an arm around him, someone to tell him, yeah, you're a brilliant player, go and do this. But he needs a bit of freedom as well to express himself, and if he's asked to do defensive duties, which he was, he really slacked. So Dembele, I don't think we'll keep him. I think he'd be brilliant in League One, but I'm not too fussed because the work rate really isn't there from him, and I think there has been a bit of hostility between him and some of our managers this season, so maybe not one to be keeping just for the work ethic. Ramel Donovan, not really senior, but he has had some appearances, so I will touch on him. I think he'll have a great season in League One, and I don't think there's any doubt that we'll keep hold of him because he will be able to get first team football. Whether it being on the starting 11, I'm not sure, but he will definitely be in the matchday squads, I think. On to the strikers. Obviously, I haven't mentioned any loans, but Stansfield isn't going to sign for us in League One. If we'd have stayed in the Championship, I think we would have thrown the money at him and then he would have had the decision. And I think he'd like to have joined us, but he won't be plying his trade in League One. He's too good of a player, as he proved in the Championship. And I think I could see him at a Championship club, but I could also potentially see him going to maybe an Ipswich and really causing problems in that Ipswich side in the attack, because he is a very, very good player, and with the right service, because don't forget he was pretty limited on his service this season. If he gets good service in the Premier League for Ipswich, I can see him scoring a few goals and having a good season. But that's enough about Stansfield. Thank you for your services this season, but unfortunately for the Blues fans, we won't be seeing him again. So this falls down to Hogan and Jukovic. I can't see either of them staying, both out of contract. If either, it would be Jukovic, but Hogan won't be staying. He barely manages to feature, so Hogan will be gone. Jukovic, I'd like to keep him because we're in League One. I think if we were in the Championship, he can't really hack it anymore. He doesn't manage to run much as he wants to try. League One, however, I think we keep him for another season, and I think he'd want to. And I'd like to offer him, staying in League One as a player for a season and then going into coaching after that. So, yeah, I'd like to keep hold of Jukovic. I think he's been a brilliant servant for the club. And that's it. Not many players I think we will retain. I can't remember all of them, but off the top of my head, I think I'd like a lot of them, but I think the players I've said I think we'll keep are maybe Ruddy, maybe Sanderson, maybe Miyoshi, maybe Gardner, and then maybe Jukovic. That's about it that I think we'll keep. The others would be bonuses, but the likes of, the main ones, Bielik, Laird, Buchanan, Miyoshi, Sunjic, Bielik, I think they'll all be gone. Paik Sung Ho as well, I think will be gone. So, yeah, Keshi Anderson was another I think we'll keep, and he's one I'm more certain on. And, yeah, not many. So it's going to be a big rebuild. Make sure that you get down in the comments saying who you think we will manage to keep or won't keep. Who would you like? But yeah, it's going to be a massive rebuild in the summer. Hopefully we can get the right players through the door. But yeah, that's been it. Make sure to like and subscribe and keep right on.